when you're gay and you don't want to be gay, also being confronted with the fact that there's this man that you've loved for 7 years who's now loving you back the way you've always wanted to be loved. It's very scary to lean into that. Wait, I actually don't like girls. And if I don't like girls, then that means that something's wrong with me. And the fact that I have to confront this right now means that I have to confront the possibility that I'm not normal. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. So, today's video is the third part in my Heated Rivalry series. I really like how each episode I've created about Heated Rivalry kind of has a different vibe to it. I know that for my Summary Term Pretty breakdowns, every single video followed a similar format. I would sit and I would analyze the show scene by scene. But for Heated Rivalry, there's just something about it that I like, the spontaneity of how it triggers my own creativity and how I'm able to really come up with such not drastically different, but different videos for each part of the series. So for this part in my Heated Rivalry series, I have entitled this video, Everything is Sex Except for Sex, which is hockey. And this was a title that I had actually come up with a while ago. I think I probably came up with it around the time that I watched episode 2, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with the title. I loved the title, but there wasn't really anywhere that I could take it. I was considering maybe writing a Substack about it with that title, but I couldn't really get any words for that. The thought hit me that I could analyze Heated Rivalry through the sex scenes. Circling back to that quote, everything is sex except for sex, which is hockey. It's actually a play off of a quote by Luca Guadagnino for the movie Challengers, where he describes the lens in which he filmed Challengers through. And that quote was everything is sex except for sex, which is tennis, which is basically to say that the lack of sex in that movie is made up through the tennis scenes. In many ways, when the characters are playing tennis, they're having sex. And when they're not playing tennis, everything is still sex. So I just really wanted to have a moment to analyze Heated Rivalry through the sex scenes. I know that I said that I was not going to do that and that you were going to have to go on HBO Max to see it. But I actually think that sex is a powerful tool of communication and self-expression, and specifically for the characters of Ilya and Shane, it's how they communicate with one another. And so to take a moment to break down the sex scenes in episode 4, I think will allow us to fundamentally understand these characters and their relation to one another. In this video, we will be analyzing sex scenes. We will be talking about the parallels, random tidbits, honorable mentions, cute moments, all that kind of stuff from episode 4 of Heated Rivalry. As always, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get into it.
Having a good night? That's nice. I think there's still time for a hat trick. Should I do now or wait a second? Because, I don't know, less second is more fun.
So the first scene that I want to analyze is Shane riding Ilya in Ilya's house. Am I going to show that? Editing me will see. But I saw a lot of people saying how it shows how Shane is more in control. And I definitely agree that in this episode, Shane is more in control of everything. At this point in the story, Ilya has totally relinquished that he is just head over heels in love with Shane. And so at this point, the ball is really in Shane's court in terms of what to do about that. Ilya is falling hard and fast, and he's not really doing anything to stop it. And so again, I think that to have their first sex scene with Shane being on top and in control shows us that Shane is the one with the reins as of right now. And even in that first sex scene, when Ilya then takes the control back and flips Shane on his back, again, we can kind of see how Ilya's trying to take the control back a little bit, but it's still mostly in Shane's court at this point. Bigger than the control aspect, because again, that was the discourse I was seeing online, and I don't disagree. What I first took away when I saw was the comfortability in this scene. I think that compared to other sex scenes, like I'm thinking specifically about the sex scenes from episode 1 and 2, there was a certain sense of novelty to it. It was Shane's first time. It was their first time with each other. There's awkwardness. They're trying to learn each other's bodies. And I think that at this point, they move like a couple. When I was watching it, I thought to myself, they are having sex like two people in a long-term committed relationship. It's still passionate, but it doesn't have the same air of newness that the sex scenes had in the earlier episodes. And again, there's just such an innate rhythm to how their bodies move in this. I was seeing the discourse on TikTok of just like really applauding Shane for how he was writing and applauding him for just like his motion and fluidity. And I again think that that reflects their comfortability. I think it reflects the fact that they've been at this for so long. It reflects Shane's confidence in his sexual relationship with Ilya. And I think that that was my main takeaway from that first scene. And I also think that that's why it was so quick, because a lot of the sex scenes in this show are very long. They usually have a musical score to musical score to accompany them. This scene doesn't. It's very quick. There is no sound. Again, I think that that is to show that this is normal for them. This is their life. This is their relationship. I also put a while back ago, I have always said that having sex in the afternoon is so romantic. And maybe I just find the most random things romantic, but to me, I was explaining this to my friend that having sex at night is what is done most often, and usually the night it's reserved for secrets, it's reserved for hookups. Obviously, you can have sex with a committed partner at night, but I mean, to even have the time allotted in the day to be having sex usually is only reserved for people you really care about. It's usually only reserved for somebody that you have some sort of connection with. And that's why I just feel like having sex in the afternoon is just really deeply romantic and intimate in its own way. And again, I think it's purposeful at this point that we're seeing them have such passionate, intimate sex at 2 p.m. to show a couple things, to show this secret, that's usually in the dark. It's usually at night. It's slowly being brought to light. We're at the point in the story where things are reaching ahead, but also just to show again that this is not as casual as they're making it out to be, and it's actually way more domestic and intimate than either of them, or at this point, mostly Shane, is willing to accept at this point. Let's get into the iconic tuna melt scene. And this scene has many acts, so you gotta bear with me. Everything is leading to a point, to the actual sex, and it's all connected. Firstly, after Shane and Ilya have sex for the first time, Ilya asks Shane to stay. Shane says that he should go, which I found interesting because he's really taking a page out of Ilya's book, because Ilya is usually the one to rush to leave after they have sex. He's usually the initiator of that disconnect of intimacy. We've seen it several times. The very first time they have sex, Ilya's the one to leave. The first time they have penetrative sex, Ilya's the one to leave. At the end of episode 2, Ilya's the one to kick Shane out. Ilya is usually the one to cut off that emotional intimacy after sex. So for Shane to say, I should go, is almost like a defense mechanism of right, I know what this is. There's nothing deep to it. I should go. That's what this is. So for Ilya to ask Shane to stay is already step 1 into him slowly meeting Shane's emotional needs. And I actually think that every moment leading up to them having sex on the couch is actually all a direct product of Shane's emotional needs being met. I actually put in my notes, maybe I'm getting too ahead of myself, that while Shane is a very sexual person, we know this, he's a very horny person. I think that he's a very soft and sensitive person. And I think that the way to his heart is through connecting through emotional intimacy. In the first 2 episodes, we see him try to connect to Ilya many, many times, and he gets shut down. And in this episode, when he first gets to Ilya's house, Ilya firstly wants to connect with Shane the way that he knows best, which is having sex. That is the easiest way for Ilya to express himself. But then I think for Shane, I think over the course of this day spent with Ilya, I think there's so much emotional intimacy that I think that led to Shane wanting to initiate sex again. But we will get there. Ilya even knows what Shane's schedule is, which is a sign that he planned this out. He knew this was going to happen, and he planned this whole romantic day in for Shane, which is how we know as viewers that Ilya is down super, super bad and that he may feign nonchalance. There's nothing nonchalant about Ilya at this point. So he practically begs him to stay, and again, this begins the door into the emotional intimacy for Shane. Fast forward, Ilya asks Shane if he can make him a tuna melt, and very much, again, feigns nonchalance. Like, I was going to make 1, but I can make 2, which is like, okay, Ilya, like, we all know you planned this out. Like, stop feigning nonchalance.
You want to make me a tuna melt?
I was gonna make 1 for me, I can make 2.
Again, the shock and the disbelief is all over Shane's face this entire scene, but like especially when Ilya asks Shane if the drink is cold enough. Like, you can see Shane being so shocked at the sweetness, the tenderness, the emotional intimacy that's being displayed in front of him right now.
Ginger ale cold enough?
Yeah, it's great.
Good. Food will be ready soon.
Again, maybe I'm like getting ahead of myself, but I think that Shane's fear and Shane's reaction to this level of intimacy to me is so valid, because I saw people online saying this is all Shane's ever wanted. This is his 7-year situationship, giving him the emotional deepness and tenderness that he's always wanted. Why is he scared? Why is he running away? And again, I can't believe I connect everything back to The Summer I Turned Pretty, but this is very much the belly-con ratification of getting everything you've ever wanted and being scared. Honestly, it makes me think of the season finale of The Summer I Turned Pretty, where Belly and Conrad are laying in bed together. He says to her, "Now you're stuck with me forever." And that triggers her to be very scared and to push him away. And everybody's like, but Belly's been in love with Conrad her whole life. This is all she's ever wanted. And it's like, you don't know this until you've dated an avoidant, or you've dated somebody that gives you attention and then takes it away, is that when they give it back, it's so scary to trust that it is legit and that they're not going to take it away from you again. Similar to Conrad, I think that, again, we know all of what Ilya's going through. We know his home life. We know that he's dealing with some real shit, but that doesn't change the fact that from Shane's perspective, sometimes Ilya's mean. Like, sometimes Ilya can be really mean and push him away. And I think that over the years, Shane has learned to build up a wall to protect himself and to protect his feelings, and he's just accepted that he's never going to get out of Ilya what he wants, and so he doesn't really have to lean into the realness of this connection. So to have this moment, these scenes where he's being so domestic and caring and boyfriend, it's like a taste of, this is everything I've ever wanted, and that's fucking scary, because now what? Is what I imagine, and I completely understand that fear, especially after dealing with somebody so hot and cold, to just be really fearful about feelings, about deepness, and then also, and we'll get into this later, also when you're gay and you don't want to be gay, also being confronted with the fact that there's this man that you've loved for 7 years who's now loving you back the way you've always wanted to be loved. It's very scary to lean into that. So then fast forwarding, they start to really connect, talking about favorite cities, and it's so cute. Like, this scene, it just made me giddy. It gave me butterflies. And like, Ilya has heart eyes towards Shane this entire scene. So then we get into the bisexuality convo. And this convo has so many layers to it to understand. And I have so many thoughts on this scene. So again, really bear with me while we break down the series of words exchanged between Shane and Ilya. Ilya says, "There's a girl I like here very much, Svetlana. She's an old friend from Russia. Her father was a famous goaltender of a Soviet team. She knows everything about hockey. She likes you very much." Which, can I just say that last line is so buzzy? Like, the way that he said it, the way he's looking at him, like, to me, it's very much giving like, I like you, and because I like you so much, obviously my best friend likes you.
Cool. She likes you very much. Oh? That's nice.
And so I just want to translate what Ilya is saying. And then I also want to translate what I think Shane is hearing, especially because I relate to Shane. I've been Shane. You guys know this from my last video. So I am actually here to defend both of them. But what I think Ilya is saying at this moment is like, my childhood bestie, who I love very much, loves you because I love you. That is what I took as what he's trying to say. Obviously, when you're in the situation and you have feelings for Ilya, I can understand not hearing it that way, because in my head, I feel like Shane is hearing, I like a girl romantically named Svetlana. That is what I think Shane is hearing in this moment. Shane says, "Oh, that's nice." And then Ilya laughs, I think because he knows Shane is jealous, but he thinks this is all lighthearted and playful at this point. Shane says, "So she's like your girlfriend?" And Ilya says, "No, nothing like that. She's an old friend. Sometimes we fuck, but she's busy these days. New business, selling fancy cars." And then Shane says, "Sounds perfect for you." And as I was taking these notes, I was realizing a couple things. Now, for one, I already thought that in this moment, what Shane is hearing is that Ilya has somebody else in his life that he likes, that he has casual sex with, and it's nothing more. Isn't that what he and Shane do? And obviously we know that there's more to it for Ilya, but if I were Shane in that moment, and my situationship of 7 years is telling me, hey, I have another person that I like really deeply care for that I have sex with casually, then, you know, I would also think that that's him trying to hint that this thing that we have is also casual. And so when Shane says sounds perfect for you, again, I think it's that self-protection of like, right. There's nothing more to this. Like, all this emotional tenderness you were showing me before, like, that doesn't mean anything because you have this best friend, Svetlana, who you also have sex with, and that's also super casual. But what Ilya's trying to say is, again, no, I don't like Svetlana like that. I don't see her that way. She's my friend and I love her, but there's nothing more to it. Subtext, because he likes you, Shane. That is the subtext to that. But again, Ilya's wording it all weird, and I definitely think language barrier is huge. But like, I understand Ilya like as not being in the emotional stakes of this dynamic. But if I were Shane, I can tell you right now that all I would hear is that he has a friend that he has casual sex with, just like he does with me, and everything is casual, and no, he doesn't love me. That is what I would hear. Ilya says it's nothing more than that for the either of us, but it's nice to have a regular woman like that around. And so then Shane says, "You think she's the only woman in Boston who would sleep with you?" Ilya says, "I think I will find someone else." And to be honest, when I first heard Ilya say, "I think I will find someone else," I always interpreted that as his very tongue-in-cheek way of saying, like, I'm not really going to be sleeping with anybody else besides you, Shane. And I didn't realize that people online took that literally and really thought that, like, they're like, why is Ilya killing the vibe by talking about the fact that he's going to go find somebody else to have sex with? And to me, I, again, as somebody not in the emotional stakes of this dynamic, I always interpreted what he was saying as more of just like, it's very like coy, like, no, I think I'm going to find someone else. It's like he wants to say that he likes Shane, but he's too scared to say explicitly. So he's saying it in a very jokey way. And because he's saying it in a jokey way, Shane doesn't really understand what he's saying.
But it's nice to have regular woman like that around.
You think she's the only woman in Boston who'd sleep with you?
I think I will find someone else. But you know me. I'm lazy, so.
I don't know that side of you at all.
Shane looks very sad at this, and then Ilya says, "You know me, I'm lazy." And to me, this has two meanings. One, this is a call back to what his father said. His father called him lazy, I believe, in the earlier episodes. But also, it's his way of saying, I'm not going to find anybody else. He's saying, you know me, like I'm too lazy to find anybody else. And so I think it's both his insecurity coming up, also his way of reassuring Shane that the only person that he wants is him. And so then Shane says, I don't know that side of you at all. And what I love about this line is, yes, this line also shows that at this point Shane fundamentally knows Ilya. He doesn't know him to be lazy. He knows his work ethic. He knows Ilya in a fundamental way that nobody else really does in Ilya's life presently. But I also think it shows how he's fundamentally misunderstanding what Ilya is trying to say, because if he doesn't think that Ilya is too lazy to find somebody else, and that means that he doesn't understand that Ilya is trying to tell him that he likes him. So then in this bisexuality convo continued, Ilya says, you like them? Girls. And Shane says, oh yes, of course I do, which is like, sure, Shane. Sure you do. Ilya says, I never hear about you with girls. And Shane says, it's private. I keep a lot of stuff private, obviously, referencing his relationship with Ilya. And so then Ilya says, I like girls. Shane says, yeah, no shit. Ilya says, but I also like you. And Shane says, lucky me. And Ilya says, not a person, of course. And then Shane says, of course, I'm boring. And Ilya says, but you have good mouth. And this whole scene, when I watched it for the first time, it gave me that mushy, gushy, ooey gooey romance feeling. Like it was so romantic. Like the way Ilya said it, it was so loving and tender. And again, like even the way he's trying to like play it off as jokey, like I like you, like not this person, of course, but it was just
I like girls,
Yeah, no shit.
but I also like you.
Lucky me.
Not this person, of course.
Of course not, I'm boring.
But you have a good mouth.
everybody's like, the women only like this show because of the hot spicy sex. And like, yeah, that's true. That's my kind of party. Like obviously I'm here for the sex, but also like I am such a romantic at my heart. I love so much, and this scene just spoke to my absolute inner romantic. The way he said it, I thought that this scene was so beautifully acted. So anyways, to translate, what is Ilya saying here? He's saying he's bisexual. That's it. That's all he's trying to say. He's saying he's bisexual, and he's wording it very, very poorly to the ears of Shane. I think that if you were talking to anybody else, they would be able to understand that he's just trying to be open and honest about his sexuality. But when you're talking to your situationship who's in love with you, and you're talking about girls and women and how you like them, all he's going to cling on to is those words. I like girls. I like Svetlana. Do you like girls? I think that also too, that's also triggering for Shane, because Shane is not bisexual. At least I don't think he is. From the book readers I've gathered that he's gay and very deeply repressed. So I think that also too, to have Ilya say to him, I'm attracted to girls, I like girls, do you like girls? It's also very triggering, because it's triggering that part of him that thinks that there's something wrong with him. Wait, I actually don't like girls. And if I don't like girls, then that means that something's wrong with me. And the fact that I have to confront this right now means that I have to confront the possibility that I'm not normal, is what I am interpreting Shane's inner reaction to this scene. Whereas for Ilya, he's just trying to have an open and honest conversation about sexuality, and he's just going about it all the wrong way. He's trying, and I think that there's definitely points to be made for trying, but I also understand Shane and what Shane is hearing, because I know that if I was in this conversation, like if I was in a queer dynamic, right, and I was talking to like another girl that I was interested in, and then she starts bringing up boys and asking me if I like boys, like I would also take that as her trying to push me away, especially if I didn't have a strong grasp on my sexuality. So then Ilya's dad calls, which is like really, like, honestly too sad for me to rewatch. So I didn't have to take these notes. But I do like the frame of how small he is to show really how helpless he feels in this moment. He comes back and Shane asks how his father, and the genuine shock on Ilya's face is pretty much Oscar worthy for Connor. Like, Connor's story, I mean, I knew he was Oscar worthy from episode 1, but his performance in this episode really, it's stellar. It's incredible. And so then Shane says, I know the word for father. And Ilya has absolute heart eyes in this moment. And then they cuddle. And it's so intimate. And Ilya is playing in Shane's hair, which this is all leading us to the couch scene, which I'm about to analyze right now. Because Shane's emotional needs are being met, I think that that is what triggered him to initiate this sexual experience. Because up until this point, you know, he asks Ilya how his father's doing. Ilya looks at him with such loving adoration. He pulls him in for a snuggle. He's playing with his hair. You can hear Shane actually making noise in this scene. Like, you can see him like literally like sighing in relief as Ilya's playing in his hair. I think I saw somebody online saying he's literally purring like a cat, and it's like, yeah. And all of his emotional needs are being met, which I think triggered the thought in his brain, I want to be as close to you as I can right now. I put that in my notes. I was like, if the director gave them one like tagline to think in their head as they were acting, I would imagine it's, I want to be as close to you as I can right now. I feel so close to you and I want to express how close I feel to you. And I will say that the part that always gets me from the intimacy is actually at the very beginning, as Shane is starting to kiss on Ilya's pants and Ilya puts his hand down the back of his shirt, and it's just so loving. Again, it's giving that tagline, I want to be as physically close to you as I can right now. So in the first watch, I was absolutely entranced by the scene. It almost pushed me to tears, which I thought to myself, like, never in my life has a sex scene almost pushed me to tears. But there was just so much love and angst and yearning and passion in this scene. It really felt like it was, for the first moment, I actually felt like it was a physical manifestation of the love that they felt for each other. I think that there was always a certain level of caringness and tenderness in the way that they have sex. Obviously, like, you know, Ilya, our consent king, was always checking in with Shane and making sure that he's okay. But in this scene, there's just something specifically about the way that Shane initiates it, the way he's kissing all over his face, the way that he really takes control, the musical score. It really does feel like a physical manifestation of the love that at this point undeniably exists between these two characters. And Shane is fully in control here. And again, I think we can see how obsessed Shane is with Ilya. I know a lot of people are like, this episode is Ilya yearning. Like, he initiated this day together. At the end of the episode, he has to suffer by watching Shane with Rose. But to me, honestly, I actually felt the yearning from Shane. And maybe this is because I relate to Shane way too much. But I think I imagine myself being Shane, spending the day with this person that you've loved for as long as you can remember. You've pushed those feelings down for as long as you can remember. And you just have this deeply emotionally intimate day, getting all of your emotional needs met. And I think that in this sex scene, I think what pushed me to tears is I could feel how much Shane loved Ilya, but how much he still feels like Ilya is out of reach. And I know that that's crazy, because I know a lot of people are like, how can he feel like Ilya is out of reach when Ilya is trying to tell him that he loves him? He's trying to express to him that he loves him. But I was thinking to myself, you know, Ilya's like this right now. What's to say that he won't take it back, like, in a week? Not saying that he would. I am not an Ilya hater. I coming to you as Shane. I'm coming to you like if I were Shane, and what my thought process would be. It's like, he's like this today, but is he going to be like this tomorrow? And if I lean into this intimacy, if I allow myself to fall, if I allow my heart to be open and vulnerable, I'm opening myself up for the hurt, coupled with the deep repression of being gay. I think it's the perfect storm to just be deeply scared, deeply sad, deeply yearning. Also, what I was thinking in this sex scene, because again, I was saying how this scene is a physical manifestation of their emotional love. At any point, I thought that one of them was going to say, I love you. I didn't really think that one of them was, but I'm like, I know that I love you is like running through their head on a repeat during this scene, during this moment. So then Ilya says Shane's name for the first time, which I know the book readers went absolutely crazy for. They were waiting for this moment. And then Shane says Ilya back. And again, to me, what I always felt like Shane was gonna say was, Ilya, I love you. Like, that was the missing piece. And I know that for Ilya, like, this is a big deal, because by saying Shane, it's again leaning into that vulnerability. It's showing that emotional closeness. Like, a first name is very impersonal, a first name is very informal. So to say Shane for the first time shows how down bad and whipped he is. But also, I think for Shane at this scene, and maybe the book readers are gonna come in the comments and tell me that I'm dead wrong, but to me, I took that immediate tonal shift as not even necessarily Shane being scared because his name was uttered. I think it was Shane's own realizations of those feelings that he had pressed so far deep down, and to finally get it all out, to finally express it like that, I think he was realizing like, oh shit, like this is serious. Like, I have to confront how I feel, and I don't think he was in the mood to do it in that moment. That's why I don't think that his panic attack was necessarily an avoidant reaction. I mean, maybe what I'm describing is avoidant, but to me, I think that the two things that are happening is what I've been saying before, is like Ilya's pushed him away so many times. I think it's fear that he's going to do it again, but also combined with the fact that he doesn't want to be gay. He really at this point does not want to be gay, and he hasn't leaned into that side of himself. And I think that's why he was so quick to run out. And also what I love about this performance from Shane, and even like the writing, is I love how he can't even get the words out. Like, I really like the part where he's like, stay, I can't, like when the words start getting incoherent, to show that like he's really panicking in this moment.
Oh, I shouldn't stay. I can't. Team meeting in the morning that I forgot. So, okay.
And again, the switch back to Hollander, it's heartbreaking. Ilya is practically begging Shane to stay, and Shane is just really fighting for his life.
Hollander. I can't do this.
Hollander.
I'm sorry.
So those are my analysis of all of the sex scenes. I wanted to get into something that I also clocked, which was the parallels. I've already seen many people talk online about how the end parallels the beginning, specifically with the sex, with how Shane and Ilya are running up the stairs and they're kissing each other, and it's super passionate, compared to at the end when Shane looks like he's literally going into war to go have sex with Rose. But also, I feel like this episode is one big mirror to episode 2, with Shane and Ilya's roles being flipped, because episode 2 also begins with a montage with that song Monch 2 that I mentioned that I absolutely love, still bumping it. And that song has such like a lighthearted, playful, cheeky, fun feel. And in this scene, it's a lot of flirting. Ilya's flirting with Shane. Shane's not really flirting back. It's a lot of, Shane pushing it down while Ilya's aggressively pursuing him. Whereas at this point, the song that's used is My Moon, My Man by Feist, and it has a more darker, heavier feel, I think, to show the heaviness of their feelings that they're experiencing right now. And also, at this point, they're both mutually very down bad. They're texting each other. They have their faces in their phones constantly. They're monitoring the schedule to see when are they going to see each other again. And I think that is one contrast, one parallel. But also, then in the sex scene in episode 2, Ilya's in control. Ilya's on top, and then Ilya leaves, whereas in this episode, Shane is on control. Shane is on top, and then Shane's the one that leaves. And then it ends episode 2 ends with Ilya being an avoidant and pushing Shane away and hurting Shane's feelings, and episode 4 ends with Shane being an avoidant and Shane pushing Ilya away and Shane hurting Ilya's feelings. And so they're both essentially mirrors to each other, and it was the first thing I thought when I watched episode 4, and I really like that storytelling element. And also going back to that montage in the beginning, I think that montage really reflects the title of this video, Everything is Sex Except for Sex, which is hockey, because I like that one shot of like them on the rink like pushing each other or I guess checking each other into the wall, and then hard cutting to them having sex twice while you can hear the roar of the audience. I think again it's like everything is sex except for sex, which is hockey. And also with the context of like as their sexual relationship progresses and gets more consistent, their playing gets better. Again, I just think that it's like sex is like so deeply interwoven into both of these characters' lives. Honorable mentions from episode 4 that I liked. Shane getting defensive with his bestie Hayden about where he's going, and that scene had me dead because it's just like, Shane, just go. Shane, just go. Nobody asks where you're going. The fact that he's like, I'm leaving, and his friend's like, all right, like I won't wait up, you know. It's like, Shane, just go. But also this scene has made me retract what I said in my last Heated Rivalry breakdown favorites video, because in that video I was really convinced that that Scott was clocking that Shane and Ilya were together. But I actually don't think that anymore, because seeing Shane's reaction in this scene to his best friend, it was the same level of like anger and defensiveness that I saw in episode 3, which is why I actually think that his reaction was more his own fear. Canonically, to everybody else in the story, Ilya and Shane know each other. They're rivals. And so I think it was more Scott saying, you know, like, you're becoming somebody that you hate, not necessarily you and him are together. And again, I really only just think that because Shane has pretty much an identical reaction to Hayden in episode 4. And also I really like the little like nugget that Shane plays better when he has sex with Ilya, whereas when he's with Rose, he doesn't really play well at all. Like the announcer literally says, where on the ice was Shane Hollander? So I think that it's just like a really cool parallel to see. Again, everything is sex except for sex, which is hockey. But my camera is about to die, so I have to go. I am so sad, but so excited for episode 5. That's all I really have for you guys today. I love you all so much, and I will see you guys in the next video.
Let's go!
Is it black mold?